Golly, thanks, guys.
Still ahead, more on Victor Wembanyama. The news coming down moments ago, out for the season. It's a big one for the San Antonio Spurs that their star, Victor Wembanyama, is out for the season. That, according to our Shams Charania. He's got a form of a blood clot in his right shoulder. He is out. The Spurs, however, believe this is an isolated condition. And again, huge news out of the NBA as the second half of the season getting ready to start.
Yeah, we now welcome in our Shams Charania, who broke this news about 10 minutes ago. Shams, what more can you tell us about what's going on with the Spurs and Wemby?
Hey guys, Victor Wembanyama came back from the All-Star game this past weekend in San Francisco, and he was diagnosed with a form of a blood clot. It's called a deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder, and he is out for the season. And the Spurs right now believe that this is an isolated condition, that there's one form of a blood clot in that right shoulder of his that will sideline him for the remainder of the season. The hope obviously is that there's no spread, that there's nothing more here, and that he's going to be ready to go for the offseason and for the 2025-2026 season. But he, of course, is in a tremendous season so far, and the Spurs had aspirations to contend for a playoff berth, a play-in tournament berth, but that has taken a back seat to this health issue, a health scare that has taken place here with Victor Wembanyama. And obviously we know Greg Popovich remains out indefinitely with a stroke that he had earlier in the season. And now the Spurs will continue on the remainder of the year without Victor Wembanyama, who has been diagnosed with a form of a blood clot in his right shoulder.
Yeah, Shams, we broke the news here on SportsCenter, as Christine said, about 10 minutes ago, and it really came out of nowhere and shocked all of us. We're like, well, wait a second, they're getting ready to play the Suns tonight. So I'm curious what led to the discovery of the blood clot when he returned from the All-Star game.
The Spurs listed Victor Wembanyama as questionable, or actually doubtful, for tonight's game with an illness. But they've been running tests over the last 48 hours, ever since Wembanyama returned from San Francisco, when clearly there were signs of a potential issue in that shoulder. And they were running tests over the last couple days, and they found, really yesterday and into today, this diagnosis that has led to a form of a blood clot. And now they will figure out the best treatment plans. And in my research in the Cleveland Clinic, it shows that this is usually a blood clot that forms sometimes in the legs. He has one in his right shoulder that the Spurs will now treat in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, I wonder, because you said that this is usually in the legs, it's a blood clot. He's out for the rest of the season. Do they know what his prognosis is and what that treatment is going to look like moving forward?
The Spurs are trying to figure out exactly what the treatment plan is going to be, but this much is set. He will miss the remainder of the season. We know Victor Wembanyama loves to play basketball, how focused, how determined, his drive. He is just a force, and you saw how upset he was walking off the court in the All-Star game on Sunday when his team lost in the championship game. That was not a player that had any idea that he was going to be out for any amount of time. He's someone that loves the game. He's smart. He's creative. He's obviously articulate as well. That was not something that he was thinking when he was walking off the court in anguish after a All-Star game loss. But now the Spurs will have to regroup with him and his team, with their doctors, and figure out exactly what the plan is here, because this is someone that's not only a face of their franchise, potentially one of the faces of the NBA. And you think about someone who's 7'3", 7'4", 7'5". You think about health issues all the time with players that big. But Victor Wembanyama, this is a situation where, thankfully, I can report the Spurs do believe this to be an isolated situation.
Yeah, you get done with the All-Star game, you're ready to come back to make a run of the second half of your season, your shoulder's bothering you, all of a sudden you got a blood clot and you're out for the season. Shams Charania reporting the breaking news here on SportsCenter. Sham, great work. Keep us posted on it if anything changes. As for Wembanyama, he was on pace to be the 7th player to average 20 points, 10 boards, and 3 blocks in multiple seasons, and the first since Shaq, the only player to do so in each of their first 2 seasons. His fellow Spur, David Robinson.